Hi again then guys, and welcome to another top 10 countdown list for Gran Turismo 6, and in this particular countdown we're running through what I would say are the 10 best all-round choices of sports car on GT6. Now sports car is a very broad term. You've got two-door convertibles with two seats, you've got 2+2 coupes, and even some executive vehicles. Now, we're including all of those under this category, sports car in its broadest term. At the same time, though, we're not including vehicles which tend to err more on the side of being super sports cars or high-end exotics. I would include in that category stuff like most Aston Martin models or the Jaguar XKR. I would say those are much more super sports cars than they are sports cars. And as always, this list is not for the fastest sports cars, it's for the best. So you have to take into account things like handling, how beginner-friendly the car's performance is, how good value it is, and that's not necessarily just being cheap, but offering a good all-round ability and a good all-round deal for the price. So, let's get straight into the list. Kicking us off first, in 10th place, I'm putting the Alfa Romeo Brera, and the reason why I'm putting this car in 10th is because it's a vehicle which is very easy to underestimate, and many GT6 players don't actually realise just how good this car can be. Now the main disadvantage of the Brera is how heavy this vehicle is. It really is heavy. It's the same kind of weight as a Veyron, which is pretty stupid. But it has all-wheel drive, supercar levels of power, well over 600 horsepower in fact when fully tuned. Off the line, it's one of the quickest Italian cars in the game, and for a sports coupe, there are actually very few others which can match this car's sheer acceleration, and also surprisingly good top speed. Next up in 9th, I'm putting another underappreciated model, perhaps even more so than the Brera, the MG TF160. Now if you're talking pure straight line speed, the MGF is actually the faster of the two, somewhat ironically, but all round this is the better of the two. It looks better, it has better handling, and it is cheaper. Both of the MG models on the game are deceptively good sports cars. They can do over 200 miles per hour. The handling is very good when you tune them correctly. They're lightweight, cheap, and fun. Next up, we move more into the executive coupe type of sports car with the Lexus SC300 or the Toyota Soarer, depending on which model you buy. It's super cheap, very powerful, extremely fast in a straight line, and although the handling isn't quite as good as some others on this list, which is the main reason why it's not higher, it is a very good all-round purchase if you're looking purely for sheer speed and power for a low price. Next up in 7th, we continue the more executive side of sports cars, but as I said, we're not going up into the XKR or XKRS territory of Jaguar. However, the entry-level XK Coupe luxury version is eligible. It is a normal sports car. Now this car is probably the biggest vehicle of this list in terms of sheer size, although it isn't the heaviest, and as such it can be a little more cumbersome on tighter, twistier tracks, but it offers a good all-round package of premium looks, tuning upgrades, a lot of power, seriously good straight-line performance. It's a great drift car, and although the handling is, as I said, a little more cumbersome than some others, for a big coupe, it is a good car. Next up, we visit the Audi dealership for our 6th place pick. And this particular model is an excellent all-round sports coupe, the Audi TT-S. Roughly the same kind of price as the Brera. It also has all-wheel drive, but it's significantly lighter, and although it is one of the least powerful cars of this list at 512 horsepower, what it can do with that really is impressive. It launches like a monster, the top speed is very good for its power, the handling is superb, the car itself isn't all that big, which helps on twistier, say, city tracks, and it's a superb off-roader. Next up in 5th place, we return to the big power for low price style of vehicle with the Hyundai Genesis. I've always liked the Hyundai Genesis Coupe, although I don't like this facelifted version as much, to be honest, but you can't argue with what it gives you for the price. 33,000 credits is dirt cheap for a vehicle with over 800 horsepower. The top speed, especially when you use NOS or slipstream, can quite easily keep up with most of the supercars on Gran Turismo, and although the handling is a little slipperier and more inclined to drifting than some other cars here, it can be brought into line, especially with less power, and it makes a good PP racer, drifter, and definitely straight line machine. Next up in fourth, I'm kind of putting two vehicles at the same time, the Holden Monaro and the Pontiac GTO. Mechanically, they're essentially the same car underneath, but each has their own advantage. I would say that the better car of the two is the Monaro. It has less power, but the same performance, which makes no sense. The handling, I would say, is slightly better, and it just feels a little more specialised. But the Pontiac does have 912 horsepower to this car's 768, and is cheaper, so both are definitely worth consideration, and not many people use them, which is surprising given how good these actually are. Moving up now into our top three, we start with the E92 series BMW M3. This is a widely loved vehicle, and although it doesn't necessarily have the power which it deserves because of not being able to be turbo or supercharged, it's still over a 600 horsepower car that can do around 250 miles per hour without NOS or draft. The handling is without a doubt the best of this entire list, and if you're looking purely for a track car, I would recommend this above every car here. The only reason why it doesn't score even higher is because of the fact that it's not quite as quick as some in a straight line, and under certain circumstances it's not necessarily the best value, especially when you consider that straight line performance for the 92 grand price tag. Moving up into second place now with perhaps a surprising choice, certainly not an obvious one, the TVR V8S. Why the V8S from a company which has so many other great choices of sports and certainly super sports cars? Well, the reason why is twofold. One, I would say the V8S is the best handling TVR in the game. And the second reason is because of the price. The value is fantastic on the V8S. Under 60 grand, you get a car that weighs less than a Le Mans prototype, and although it doesn't have the sheer power of a Cerberus or a Tuscan, it does have remarkably good performance for the power that it has, and makes a superb PP-specific track car. And finally, in first place, I'm putting, perhaps controversially, but then again, perhaps not, the BMW M4. In my opinion, no other sports car in the game even comes close to how good an all-round deal the BMW M4 is. And I'm not even a BMW fan. In fact, I don't really like BMWs, but the M4 is a brilliant car. For 120,000 credits, you get literally 1,000 horsepower, the top-end performance which can easily keep up with Vipers, Supras, and even above. The handling can be made to be almost as good as the M3, not necessarily quite as sharp, but certainly in that region, and overall, the M4 is essentially what the M3 should be on GT6. It has all of the advantages of that car, but with that straight line performance and power, which I said that the M3 sadly lacks. So overall, that's my pick of the top 10 best sports cars on Gran Turismo, and there are so many to choose from on the game that doubtless there will be cars that people like which didn't feature. So which sports cars do you love on Gran Turismo? Slap those down in the comments below, and if you'd like more information about these cars, you can find that at the end of this video or in the description below. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.